creating a birth environment wherever you birth can be a really important part of helping your labour to run really smoothly. How we feel in labour can sometimes affect the way our hormones work, and our hormones can affect how our labour progresses. And this can be seen in the wild, where animals who are in labour, if they're all of a sudden aware of a predator, their adrenaline spike can actually inhibit the labour hormones. They can stop labouring or immediately spit their baby out and flee. And it's a life-saving primitive reflex. And to a similar extent, that can happen for human people in labour. Whereas if you're feeling fearful or your adrenaline spikes, that can actually inhibit your labour hormones. So it's really important that we find, firstly, the place of birth where we feel safest. For some people, that's the hospital with all the tech. Others, it's a birth centre, and for others, it's at home. And some women choose to birth at home because they've had previously traumatic experiences in hospitals or don't feel comfortable in hospitals. So there's a number of reasons that people birth in different areas. When you're at home, generally that is an environment you've created. You can have, you're not going to have anyone coming in unannounced or people that you don't know necessarily. So people can feel quite safe there. But a hospital is a very different environment, and it can be quite sterile and quite impersonal. So part of your birth planning should really include a section on creating the birth environment that will help you to feel safe and comfortable. And there's a few ways you can do that and a few things to consider. So the first thing I would say is to look at the lighting of the room. Hospitals are very equipped to have bright spotlights and really cold, crisp lights, blaring if required. And it's important to put somewhere on your birth plan that, if you don't want that kind of lighting, which most women in labour prefer not to have bright spotlights, it's like being on stage. It's pretty intimidating and can make you feel quite vulnerable. So something that you can do is actually specify in your birth map or your birth plan to have low lighting, to only have maybe the desk light on. And what you can do is you can bring in some of those strings of fairy lights that are battery operated and create enough ambient light that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel like you're not on stage and in a spotlight. And that warm lighting can be really good for you. And it also has a bearing on your hormone regulation. As people know about the blue light and the cold lights can affect some hormones in your brain. So keeping that lighting nice and low, getting the strings of battery-operated lights, they're quite good value. They make good night lights for when you need to feed once your baby's born. My oldest daughter actually has made, it's a jar, and she stuffed the lights in the jar, and it looks like a really nice lamp. So you could even make a couple of those and put them around in your birth room, or in your birth environment, to create a really nice soft lighting. So that can be a really nice idea, especially the battery-operated ones, because I know some hospitals are funny about things being plugged in. But yeah, those fairy lights are cheap, really effective, and they look really nice. They create a really nice ambient light. Second is music. For some people, they might really like instrumental kind of relaxation type music, and you can find heaps on YouTube of 8 hours of relaxation music. You could find some Tibetan singing bowl music tracks. You could find, even if it's pop music, if there's things that you like, creating that soundtrack before you're in labour. Some of those songs you'll never forget. I remember my first labour and the songs that I listened to then, and when I hear them now, which isn't very often because it was about 13 years ago, it really brings me back, and I've got really fond memories of that music and the soundtrack that I created for that. And then arguing with my husband about how loud it should have been and how it needed to be at 1.5 level for me to tolerate it. If it was too loud, it was too stimulating. If it was too quiet, I needed to hear just a tiny bit. But the music actually it serves a couple of purposes. One is to help you focus. And two is to drown out the possible noise that could be coming from either people walking up and down corridors outside of the hospital room, or the noise from staff handovers, or from machines, or from people in other rooms and what's going on around the hospital, because what you'll find is hospitals can be quite a noisy environment, and it might be nice to create a bit of a cocoon of that room with your own lighting, your own sound, to drown out some of the other things that might be happening in and around you. So lighting is really important as well. Another really nice thing to do is for you to think about some aromatherapy, because hospitals notoriously have that hospital smell, and even if you haven't sort of been into aromatherapy or oils in your pregnancy, it's really nice to actually include them to kind of get rid of that awful hospital sterile smell. Some hospitals, I think, have policies on using diffusers, but there's other things you can do. So if you can bring a plug-in diffuser, fantastic. Just put a few drops in of something nice and light. That will mask all the hospital sterility. And some of them are great for, keeping you uplifted and keep you energized. So your wild orange and your peppermint can be really good for uplifting. Peppermint is fine during pregnancy, especially if it's diffused, so don't stress about that. Clary sage is another one that's great for helping your labour kick along. So making a little diffuser blend of your clary sage, your wild orange, maybe some lavender, bergamot, they can be really nice. But yeah, having that diffuser on or having some other aroma around can be really nice to again create that space. And if you've been doing either some manifestations or some meditation or relaxation or mindfulness during pregnancy, using those oils during that relaxation time and then using those same oils during labour can be really good to help with the association of calm and relaxation. So it can be a really nice way of helping with that mental game of labour. If you can't use a diffuser in the hospital, think about things like putting a few drops on a scarf or a tissue in a Ziploc bag or a container, and then just being able to inhale from that if possible. Or you can, put a few drops in some hot water or some warm water and just keeping that near the bed, just diffusing around. There's a few options there, but just getting rid of that sterile hospital smell with some aromatherapy can be great. And also the benefits of using aromatherapy during labour can be fantastic for your, well-being and helping your body to work. The next thing I would suggest is thinking about bringing your own linen. Your own pillow is, I would say, a total necessity, because you know where it's been, you know how many people have slept on it. It will have a familiar smell of home. And again, you can put some aromatherapy drops on your pillow and bring that in. Excuse me. And think about maybe bringing in your own throw rug, like your blanket. You could bring your own doona. You could bring your own linen if you really feel that way inclined, just to create, again, that feeling of home. And that can really help to make you feel a lot more comfortable, because we do associate our bed with sleep and calm. So that's really important. The other thing that some people work on, might be a bit airy-fairy for others, but think about, again, the labour is the mental game, and affirmations can be great to help keep you on track. And printing off, I know some people have printed off some, big sheets of, affirmations of positive things like, every surge or contraction brings me closer to my baby. I trust my body. I'm going to meet my baby soon. There's so many different affirmations that you can, meditate on, helping you to develop trust in your body. And just sometimes just glancing at a manifestation or an affirmation on the wall can really help to keep your mind on track, which is, labour is that really physical and mostly emotional experience. So some affirmations or posters around the wall, messages from friends, that sort of thing can really help to make your birth environment your own, because any hospital room can become and should become your sanctuary and help you to birth in a more calm and positive way, and creating your own space. So make sure it's on your birth map or plan. Simple things like, making sure that people don't just walk in unannounced, making sure that, you've got the lights nice and low to help you feel, less vulnerable, covering up hospital smells. There's so many things you can do to help create and make that birthplace your own.